Are you ready to challenge yourself and think bigger? I'm your host, Marianne Marchesi, and together we'll hear the unfiltered, unscripted stories of those who've taken big risks and transformed their bold ideas into reality. Season 2 is brought to you by multi-award-winning law firm Legalite, where bold ideas thrive. Back in 2014, Josh Cairns was ready to walk away from his digital agency, convinced he wasn't cut out to build a software company. Then, one breakfast changed everything. He'd built an app to help paramedics manage their clinical guidelines. A friend told him it was exactly what the franchising world needed, and Op Central was born. Josh sold his house and every asset he owned to fund it, with no safety net and the very real risk of financial ruin if it failed. He grew it into a global compliance platform, and in November 2023, it was acquired by UK software company Ideagen. As always, Bold Ideas is completely unscripted, but today we're taking it one step further, and Josh hasn't had a heads up on any of the questions I'm about to ask. A testament to his knack for pivoting and living in the moment. Welcome, Josh.
Thanks, Marianne.
We've been known to turn a half-hour coffee into a 2-hour chat. So.
I know. I think we've run overtime every time we've spoken.
So I'm not worried at all about having enough to talk about today.
We'll find a way through. We're good.
But I do want to know a bit about your origin story. Tell me about Josh growing up.
Yeah, so I grew up very humble beginnings. I grew up in Melbourne's outer western suburbs with a single mum. And we did it pretty tough. You don't realise it at the time because you're just kind of living and your world is very small when you're a child, and the four corners of your bedroom is kind of your whole world. Yeah. So it's only reflecting later that you kind of realise that it was a bit of a sort of gritty way through. But yeah, we grew up really well. I had a great mum, close with my sister. I first started working, I think my first job was refereeing basketball at about 12 years old.
Oh, cool.
And so I would go down after I'd finished school, I'd referee basketball games for a few hours until maybe 5 o'clock, go home. And then when I turned 15, it became Red Rooster. And then it was a couple of different service stations and all the little bits and pieces, part-time jobs that we all kind of have. And I think for me, that kind of built like a little bit of a work ethic type thing that hopefully stayed with me through. Yeah.
At a young age.
Yeah, from a really young age. Nothing kind of came easy, and I think that was a massive blessing. Like later in life, I think it's a really big blessing if it doesn't come easy to you. Yeah.
Did you have an idea of like what you wanted to be when you grew up at that age?
I knew that it was a big deal if you had a job in an office. That was a very big deal. That was a very big ambition. That meant you're a real high flyer where I was from. So
got to wear a suit.
Oh my God, that was inconceivable. If you had a computer on a desk, that was like you've made it. No, I liked the idea. I did from a very young age like the idea of a part of the entrepreneurial allure was not so much the freedom side of it. I didn't really care that much for the freedom and the glamour that's associated with that. I think in modern entrepreneurial culture, for me, it was more just the autonomy to be in control of my own pathway. I always saw risk a little bit inverted to what I think most of the narrative around risk is, that I always thought it was so risky to work for someone else because I'm like, well, if they make a mistake, I might lose my job. So
I totally agree with that.
For me, I always had this vision that the safest path is if I just control everything about my own destiny.
That's so true, because a lot of people say like, why go into business? That's so risky. Just go get a job. But jobs come with so much risk. You don't necessarily have job security just by having a paid job and being an employee. So
I certainly saw it. I never saw it as a safe route. I saw it as terrifying. Everything, even when I was young and I had my little part-time jobs and whatever, I always used to think to myself, well, if someone makes a mistake and or the marketing's not right and we have no customers, then I'm going to lose my job and it's not even my fault. So I thought, well, the only way I can be sure of either success or failure, but at least it's on my own merits. So I thought, well, I just have to be in the driver's seat of my own life.
Whatever happens.
I can live with it. I can live with whatever happens, honestly, whether it's success or failure, as long as I know that it was driven by my own decisions and my own competencies or inadequacies, whatever that might be.
I so agree with that and can totally relate to that too. So after school, did you kind of go into full-time work, or what did you do?
So after school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I certainly didn't have any means of starting a business or any idea how to run a business or anything to do. So I applied for, I don't know if it still runs, but RMIT used to run out of their business degree, they used to run an entrepreneurship program. So it's a a Bachelor of Business Entrepreneurship.
Oh, cool.
And it's kind of a little bit ironic because I guess like academia is kind of the enemy of entrepreneur. They don't go hand in hand. So it's the irony is not lost on me.
But it's such an entrepreneurial thing to do, to go study entrepreneurship.
It's the weirdest irony.
Sounds amazing.
So I did that thinking, well, this is how you become an entrepreneur. I don't think there's any less conventional ways to become an entrepreneur. So I managed to sort of talk my way to that. My grades were not even remotely close to getting into that. But I remember I turned up every day with lunch for the bloke who made the decisions at RMIT, and I'd turn up with lunch and I would turn up with a new story each day, and I'd just do anything to try and talk this bloke into letting me in. And somehow I don't know if you can still do that now, but I managed to talk my way into this degree that I had no business being any part of.
Oh my gosh. Well, he must have seen your like business spirit.
I think he was just fed up with me. I think he found me annoying.
Let's go with he saw your business spirit, okay?
He found me annoying, and he's not the first and won't be the last. It made me pretty irritating. But so I did that.
Well,
I
cool.
had the chat with him, and we got me in there, fortunately. And I spent the next 4 years doing all I could whilst carrying the burden of a lot of work to support mum and sister and everything else. So there was a period, I remember during that 4-year uni stretch, I was working the graveyard shift at a service station on Flemington Road, a racecourse road, I think it is in Flemington the Shell service station that's attached to the
massive intersection there.
It was a horrible role. I would start work at 11 p.m. and it was the graveyard shift all the way through until 6 a.m. And it was just terrifying for a young kid. Like some of the characters that wander in and out at that hour, terrifying. And so that was a really, really tough time. I'd sort of do that and then I'd go home and I'd sleep for a couple of hours, head into uni, and honestly, most days skip it. Like I just didn't have it in me to be there. And then I'd come home and I'd ref basketball for a couple of hours and then I'd go back and do my graveyard over.
Oh my God.
It was a really rough 4-year patch for me. And the study is the part, something has to give, right? You got to put food on the table and that. So for me, it was the study that was the part that gave in. I didn't do a very good job of it. I barely scraped by every semester. And I ended up just not really caring about it towards the end. I think I knew by the end that my success or failure in life wasn't going to be decided by what I do in the classrooms of RMIT Burke Street. It wasn't going to make any difference. So I thought, well, I'm here now. I've done 3 years of it. I might as well see it out and get the piece of paper.
Well, it's great that you finished it.
Couldn't have cared less about it by the end. I just wanted to roll up my sleeves and get on with earning some money and getting into the workforce.
Yeah. And then did you go straight into entrepreneurship?
No, I actually got a job at the Commonwealth Bank.
Yeah.
I got a job at the bank and I was initially just like a teller, bank teller. And then I saw that the guys who write the home loans, like they earn more money. And I thought, well, I can sell a home loan. This is fine. So I went and became like the branch lender. And then I remember I was given a Mitsubishi Magna, which was just the most exciting day of my life. I was now a guy with a company car. And so I was now a mobile lender. So I'd go around and
Magnas,
they were all, it was Mitsubishi. It was the best. I felt like a big shot. It was amazing. So yeah, I remember I was now a mobile lender. So I'd go around on the road and I'd meet with people and do the first home buyers kind of applications, do all that. And it was so much fun for me for a few years. And I think that's where my first little taste of entrepreneurship came from, because I knew that sitting in the branch, I had a cap of how much business I could write based on the bodies that stroll into the branch each day. But being a mobile lender, I forged relationships with every real estate agent, every conveyancer, anyone I could possibly think of that was involved in the home buying purchase. And they would refer their clients to me for their home loans. So then I kind of thought, well, this is like a scalable thing. So I remember I got so busy doing that I went back to my boss and I said, I'm getting so busy doing this. I've got this network of real estate agents that are all referring business to me. Can I get a personal assistant to help me with the documentation, collecting pay slips and all the rest of it? And so we ended up going down to the branch downstairs and we plucked a couple of people out of there and they became my little sort of admin team. And so I would just spend all of my days sort of meeting, and I guess you call it networking. I never thought of it as networking, but meeting and building relationships with these referral partners. And it ended up getting like quite big. Like I was doing 300% of budget, about nearly $200 million a year in home loans as a young kid against a budget of about 60. So it was like I was going really well with it. And then the weirdest thing happened. I was going so well. I was young. I was this kid who never had anything. And now I've got this, the optics of a good career happening. And I remember I just woke up one day. It was as instant as this. It was not long after I got married actually. So it would have been about 2009, I guess. I just woke up and I thought, this is not the value that I can be adding to the world. Like I don't want this to be my legacy that I'm putting people in 30 years of debt. And I just thought I need to add more value to the world than this.
Wow.
So I more or less quit immediately on the spot. Like
you just had like this awakening and acted on it.
I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew that tech was rising. It was the early days of the iPhone and there were kind of apps happening and I was a bit curious about that. I've always had a little bit of a nerdy kind of tech streak in me. So I partnered with a mate of mine who knew a bit about tech and we started this little web development business. And honestly, we had no idea where we're going.
Yeah.
No idea what we're doing. I just knew that I didn't want to sit around selling home loans for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Fair.
And the first few businesses were pretty unsuccessful that would be an understatement how unsuccessful they were. But again, you learn a little bit and I think if you
go and iterate.
Pretty much.
I love that you did that and didn't put all this pressure on yourself for your first thing to be super successful. Like I read somewhere that you said one of your first businesses was a digital agency and you're like, that's pretty generous calling it a digital agency.
It honestly was generous. Really
your
all we
words,
did.
I'm sure it was. It legitimately was. But I just love that you took the pressure off, yourself and gave it a crack and tried something different.
Yeah, well, I think I just saw that it was, at that time, it was just fun. And I kind of did the maths and I kind of thought, well, I don't have to make that much money to make ends meet. We didn't have kids at that stage and I'd never had particularly expensive taste. I still don't now have very expensive taste. So I didn't really care about having much money. I thought as long as I can put food on the table, I'd rather do that via a mechanism that could potentially become big rather than one that's got a ceiling of, the salary side of things attached to it. So, God, it was not a good business at all. It was really bad. What we used to do, it was really funny. Whenever we'd notice that there'd be a government press release, if they were allocating money to whatever cause they were sort of supporting, I would always call the name, like the contact name on the bottom of the press release. It was like some person from the government, I guess. I can't remember now. And I would call them and I'd say, it's great that you guys have put a few $1 million into supporting this cause or whatever. Just wondering how much of that's been allocated to mobile engagement. And at that time, people were like, what the hell is mobile engagement? What does that even mean?
Yeah.
And so I had my little deck, which had some stats about how users were moving from desktops and laptops, towards mobile. So I'd present these stats and I'd say, I think if you've got any part of this apportioned for digital, some of it should go towards mobile because that's on the rise. And so we'd win these little contracts and build these little apps and whatever. And it was just so much fun. Never made any money out of it, which at some point had to. Not really very much.
I find that such a clever way to get business, like literally kind of like the yellow pages of government work.
That's all it was.
Subline.
And we managed to slide we managed to slide in between a few procurement panels. So we would always charge less than what needs to go out for a proper procurement process. And at that stage, what we were doing didn't quite fit into a marketing procurement thing or an IT procurement thing. I can't remember how it was, but I remember we slid in between so that we were able to get really, really small contracts. But at least we could do it without the competitiveness of having to go through a huge process and we didn't know what we would have been doing. We wouldn't have won a contract if we had to do that.
Yeah. So how did that evolve into what initially was this app for paramedics?
So what it was we just won it as a contract, just a fee-for-service contract. And we did tender for that one. That was with Ambulance Tasmania at the time. And we put together what we thought was a really good competitive, all they wanted was a mobile app with all their clinical practice guidelines sort of baked in there so they could give that app to all their paramedics who are running around the state, saving lives and doing important work. And so we tendered on that and we thought we're going to go way above the scope here. And instead of it just being this app with these clinical practice guidelines in there, we'll put our tender in to build also this web-based content management system so that if a policy changes, best practice changes, they don't have to just update it once a year. Like they can go into the web thing, they can change some content and it will just push a notification out to all the paramedics with the update. And we thought, well, firstly, that is the right thing to do because it's the technical capabilities there and honestly didn't cost that much more to do. And I think for us, we always wanted to go a bit above whatever the scope was anyway. So we put that together and it was really, really, really well received. They were so happy that we'd gone above what was required and probably charged less than most of the other parties that were tendering for it as well. So we built that out. It went well. And I was having breakfast with a friend who I think you're aware of as well, Karina Vucic. I was having breakfast with her in the Docklands one morning. And she had just come out of one of her CEO roles within the franchising sector and she was quite involved with the Franchise Council at the time. And it was just a general catch up, what have you been up to and what have you been up to? And I remember I told her what we'd just done, and I could see like light bulbs going off overhead, and she's like, that is exactly what franchising needs.
Yeah.
Like this ability for a central body, franchisor in that case, to be able to manage, update policies, procedures, best practice documentation. When anything changes, push it through to all of in that case, the paramedics, but in the franchising case, to your franchisees, so that you just get this meticulous consistency across the network of operations. And so she kind of put that idea in my head that this is something that should be present in the franchising community. And honestly, I'll say to this day, if it wasn't for Karina's vision and belief in that product, and I guess in my ability to sort of execute on her vision really, we probably would have never invested what was invested, whether it be time, resources, money, everything else, towards building this thing and making it happen.
Yeah.
So she was absolutely pivotal. And honestly, I could trace almost all of my success back indirectly to Karina's influence. It was pretty incredible.
And it does just seem so much like every step that happened since your like origin story, if you call it that, was like almost like destined. Like it was all working up towards this, breakfast with Karina. You had the tools and resources to make it happen. And Karina had this, brilliant idea. And she's obviously so right. Like franchising is replicating systems across the network. And, back then prior to Op Central, they were literal paper-based operations manuals. So it just makes so much sense to put it on this platform.
Exactly. Yeah, we were replacing paper-based manuals, or best case competitor was the incumbent that we were replacing was like a bunch of Word documents in a Dropbox folder or something. Like that's what we were replacing. It was just such a low bar for us to be sort of eclipsing. And in those early days, a lot of our clients were really small franchise groups. Karina had a network of groups that she was sort of consulting to by that stage. And so for her, it was a really good point of difference. She was sort of writing operations manuals and policies and procedures and helping upskill franchise systems or upgrade the way they operate. And so I gave her a point of difference that instead of when she delivers her consulting services, that it's in this bunch of Word documents in an email, that she could deliver it in this amazing platform that had all these cool bells and whistles.
Yeah.
And for us along the way, we were learning about franchising. We were learning about what matters, what doesn't matter, learning how to build a product, learning how to build a software company, learning about recurring revenue. I didn't know any of this stuff, and we were kind of figuring that on the way. So she was building her good business on the back of this partnership. We were building ours as well. And I think it was just a little bit of a leap of faith by both of us. We kind of bet on each other a little bit, and it worked out, I think, really well for everyone involved.
Yeah, absolutely. And it grew so rapidly. Like I kind of saw a lot of that growth. We've known each other, I think, for maybe 9 years now. Yeah. Tell me a bit about the COVID years. What kind of did that help or hinder Op Central during that time?
The net result was very positive. And it was evident from pretty early on that it was going to be positive, but it required a lot of action. We had to pivot a lot in order to achieve that outcome. So at the very, very start, the first like 3 weeks, I think it was January or February of 2020 from memory, somewhere in that range, we were having clients calling us almost every day saying we want to cancel our subscription, and they didn't dislike the product, but they were just closing sites. Restaurants are closing and gyms are closing and hairdressing studios are closing, and all the businesses are closing down. So they have no need for this platform that they've been paying us for. And so we kind of thought to ourselves, well, we can either kind of wither away and let us also become one of the indirect victims of this pandemic or the government policies or however we want to frame it. We had that as an option, and so many businesses did what we did, which is to pivot and learn from that. So we decided at that point, we were fortunate, we just raised a little bit of capital, not a lot, but we had a little bit of runway there that we could afford to make a bit of a loss for a little while. And so we didn't prioritize cash flow. We didn't prioritize making a profit. We just prioritized, first of all, keeping our head above water, not losing any more clients.
Yeah.
That was the number one. We didn't want to lose any clients under any circumstances. And then that quickly pivoted towards signing a whole bunch of new clients. And the way we did it was we put together an initiative that, it's so corny, it's almost embarrassing now, but we called it the Australian Business Survival Fund.
Oh, I love it.
So corny. So we put that together, and basically what it was, we'd had permission from our investors, and they were happy to allocate whatever capital was required to do it. We put together this fund, and it wasn't a cash fund to give businesses to help them survive. It was giving our services, which are a genuine needle mover for a lot of businesses, especially sort of franchise or multi-site businesses. We were going to give our services away for free to businesses that were affected by COVID. And they didn't have to prove it. We take their word for it. If they say, we're struggling, we'll say, well, we're here to help. Yeah. So what we did is we reached out proactively. We didn't wait for anyone. We reached out proactively to all of our existing clients. And we said, if you're struggling and if you can't make ends meet, get in touch with us. And we were doing it in 3-month blocks. So we say the next 3 months, we still had to charge $1 a month. I remember there was something with our Stripe, our payment processing. If we went it to zero, then it would remove their payment facility or something like that. So I remember we charged, so it wasn't quite free. We charged $1 a month, but it was really just for the sake of keeping the payment cycle active.
Yeah.
So it was $1 a month for 3 months. And then if they were still struggling, they could come back to us, and we just kept extending and extending it out. And so that was received really, really well. We got a lot of good media around that across the franchising sector, and even a little bit of mainstream media around that. And it wasn't fake niceness. We did care about
genuine.
our customers, but we just wanted to survive. That's all we wanted to do. And we thought if the way to survive is to also help other businesses, like that's kind of the whole point of why we do what we do, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And it was so well received that we ended up rolling it out to the general every other business that wasn't even a client. And we said, if you sign with Op Central, use these months, like use these 6 months, this 12 months, whatever this lockdown period is going to be, use this to get your back-end operations in place. You're not going to be trading anyway.
Exactly.
Everyone likes the idea of Op Central, but no one's got time to write an ops manual and set it all up and everything. So like, use this time.
Now's the time.
Use this time. Use it now so that by the time the lockdowns end, you can spring back into the world and be good to go. And so that's what happened is we ended up giving the product away for $1 a month to hundreds of new franchise brands that had never been with us before. By the time lockdowns ended, they had this incredibly well-functioning Op Central portal all set up, and they never left us. They all stayed with us and they became fee-paying clients. So
how brilliant.
I don't know. I like the idea of us surviving COVID. I like the idea of us growing through it. But I think what I'm most proud of is that we did it by being legitimate and helping businesses that were struggling. If you remember the press, these guys were struggling.
Yeah, really struggling, especially as you said, restaurants and gyms. They were the first to close, and in particular gyms, the first to close, last to reopen.
Yeah.
And restaurants were barely keeping the lights on.
Yeah,
like so many just were keeping the kitchen lights on, So it was a tough time. And as you say, such a smart time to be investing in your operations and the back end so that when things reopened, you could kind of just like launch straight into it. But I love that you grew Op Central in a non-financial way during that time. Like you grew the longevity of it, the loyalty, which I think a lot of people underestimate, that loyalty as a key winning business factor. It's not all about the money. $1 a month is not going to do much for you, but that loyalty that $1 a month earned for you in the long term clearly paid off, and I want to talk about that. But was that, do you have a similar perspective on that as a real growth metric?
We always just wanted to do right. I know it sounds so corny. We just wanted to do right. I remember at that time, it was just about genuinely helping these businesses that were struggling, because we were fine. As I said, we'd raised some capital. We were doing okay.
Yeah.
As long as we didn't lose any more clients, but we were doing okay. And we knew that coming out of it, if we could just survive it, we would still continue on our normal trajectory that we were on beforehand. But that wasn't going to be true of your local restaurant or your local, like you say, your gym or your local retail, bricks and mortar retail shop, whatever it might have been. I remember also at that time, if you remember, this was when the riots were happening in the US. There was the Black Lives Matter movement emerging. There was political instability. Both sides are just hurling abuse at each other. Some of it justified, some of it not, but there's just chaos going on. And so I remember we also did the same thing. We had this really cool product that was good for managing clinical practice guidelines and policies and franchising, whatever. And so we reached out to a group in the US that were advocating for policy implementation across police precincts across the US. We reached out to them and we gave them our platform completely free of charge so that they could load in. I can't remember what they were now, but there was a set of 9 procedures or policies that they were advocating needed to be mandated across every police department nationwide. And it wasn't going to be done at a government level. It wasn't going to be implemented in that way. So they were going around police department to police department saying, will you sign on to commit to these? And it was things like no chokeholds or warning before shooting. I can't remember what it was, but it was all these policies around reducing police violence. And so we offered our platform completely for free to every police department in the US to use so that they could monitor and make sure that every police officer had signed off that they'd read and understood and agreed to comply with the policies. So we were really big at that time on just trying to use what we had. We knew we had an awesome platform. We knew that it was valuable. We knew that we couldn't commercialize it for our own benefit at that time. But we thought, well, if we can't make money off this thing, at least we should use it to try and do good in some way. And so we did that. And I do believe, whether it was directly or indirectly, that internally built a culture in our business that surpassed anything else we were doing, because every decision we made after that, every staff member we hired, every person in the business knew that we were there for the right reason. And you'd never meet a more engaged group of staff members than what we had. Because we were investing in them. Even days when I had to go without a paycheck, everyone was still getting paid. We were still building our support team to support clients who weren't even paying for the product during that time. So we were building our support team in South Yarra. We never offshored anything either. My gosh. So it was a lot of good that came out of COVID for us. Most of it indirectly, but it changed the game for us completely.
Yeah, incredible. In addition to being your host, I'm also the founder of Legalite. If you're looking for a law firm that can work with your bold ideas, not against them, you can join the movement for better legals at www.legalite.com.au or follow us on Instagram at legalite_au. And then coming out of that, you'd achieved all this press and, built this incredible team culture, more awareness of your product. Where were you personally? How did you feel after? Because that was a lot of work during COVID,
Yeah, it was really rough.
Yeah.
There were days during that COVID period where I would do 3 days straight in the office. I would sleep on the ground because it was somehow more comfortable than this terrible sofa we had in the office. So I wouldn't see my kids for 2 or 3 days on end. And that's the one thing I've never placed work ahead of. Some friendships have to go on hold for a couple of years if you're just working your butt off. And even personal relationships in some cases sort of took a bit of a backseat. But my kids were one thing I never So even if I was working a 20-hour day, I'd be home at 6 o'clock. I'd had dinner, build some Lego with my kids, whatever it is with the kids, and then put them to bed and go straight back to work again and go into the office and work through the night. And there were these little periods where I did go 2 or 3 days of just like crazy sprints that are completely unsustainable. But it was when we had a big milestone coming up or something we had to hit, or we promised something to a client who'd signed on with us and we had to just meet some deadline. So it took a massive toll on me. I gained a ton of weight. I gained like 22 kilos during COVID. I know it's weird. This is the thing. During COVID, some people got hyper fit because you got your home gym and you got your
got all the setup
and other people
going.
kind of went the other way. And for me, my life just revolved around work for those 2 or 3 years. And I knew it was going to set up a platform for me for the rest of my life if I could do good things during COVID. So I gained a lot of weight. So by the end of that, when we come out of it, we still didn't have a particularly thriving business. We had all these clients that weren't yet paying for our product. So the revenue wasn't reflected. The profit obviously wasn't there. The reputational currency were there. We'd earned good favor with the folks in the industry that we wanted to think highly of us. They did. Personally, I was just exhausted.
Yeah.
And it was just the toughest time for me because I was so out of shape. I was mentally exhausted. I didn't have any confidence that, I've planted all these seeds that are going to grow into these big apple trees. I didn't even have it in me to stick around to watch them bear fruit. Wow. So I was at that time pretty keen to sell the business. For hindsight, it would have been pennies compared to what we ended up getting. But I was pretty keen at that point to think my personal health and my own circumstances matter more than whatever is going to come from these seeds that I've been planting for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And thankfully I was hopeless at selling my business and I couldn't get anyone to buy it at that time. So I'm glad.
As it turned out really well, yes, because a couple of years later you did sell it to Ideagen. How did that come about?
So we received an unsolicited offer in 2023, early in 2023. It would have been probably March, I think, of that year. We received an unsolicited. We were at that time, again, tech companies, even small ones, were receiving acquisition offers and capital raise offers all the time. It was a pretty hot time to be in the tech space. Yeah. And so one of these emails, for whatever reason, I decided to reply to. And they made us an offer, which for me would have been completely life-changing for my young family, completely life-changing.
Yeah.
And I kind of accepted it in principle, non-binding, thankfully. I did accept the offer, and I ran it by my shareholders at the time. None of my shareholders were directors. They were all minority shareholders, but they added up, I think, combined to about 34% or something in the business. Yeah. So I ran it by them, and they, in their various different ways of communicating, as these types of people do, they made it known that they weren't happy with that as an offer.
Wow.
They didn't have any, I guess, formal sort of say in it.
Yeah.
I had the ability to sort of sell that if I wanted to. And we had some pretty, I would say, robust conversations around that. My financial circumstances were obviously very, very, very different to theirs. Yes. The amount of skin I had in the game, and the, I guess the amount of skin I had outside of the business as well was I had nothing outside of the business. And so for me, I thought this offer would just change my life. My wife at the time, my ex-wife now, it would have been amazing for her, amazing for me, amazing for our kids, give us some security. But anyway, as they do, they're pretty persuasive, and they somehow convinced me not to accept the offer. I ended up declining that offer on the proviso that now it's in my head. Now I've kind of got this idea of like, God, we could sell this business here, and it's a good little time for me to exit. And so I declined it on the proviso that they would work with me in good faith to help appoint an M&A advisor, someone that could come in and help us sell the business. So we did that. I will mention his name because he's one of the most incredible humans I've ever met, but it's a guy called Peter Polterglue from Taronga Advisory. He was appointed to help take us through that M&A process. He was incredibly patient with me because I was an anxious, nervous wreck for most of that process. But yeah, we ran a process. So we put together a little anonymized info doc. We sent it around to about 30 cherry-picked companies around the world that we thought we would be a good fit for. They were all software companies. We didn't think we'd be a good fit in a private equity roll-up. We thought we would be a better bolt-on for an existing software company given the nature of our product. So we did that. We had expressions of interest from about 12. Then we received non-binding offers from 5. We narrowed that down to sort of, a little bit of a bidding war with 3 of them. We ran it really ethically. Peter's an incredibly high character, high integrity guy, which is why I appointed him in the first place. Not just to try and be good people, because I just think you get better results when you treat people well. I just think it yields better results as well.
Totally.
And so, we narrowed it down to 3. And we were happy with the offer from Ideagen, not just the terms of the offer, but also their vision for the product, their vision for how they saw the handling of what I considered to be something I was very proud of, that they would handle our customers the right way and our staff the right way. And so I felt good about every part of it. So after 10 weeks of no sleep due diligence that we sort of went through.
More no sleep. Yeah.
It ended up crazy. So we ended up transacting. The business actually got sold on my eldest son's 10th birthday. Oh. So it was like 10 years to the day after the most important day of my life came, I guess, probably the second most important day of my life.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a pretty awesome moment. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. Crazy. Huge congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
That's such an incredible story. And I love that you've just stayed true to your values the whole way through. So tell me and the listener a bit about the post-exit stage of your life, because it's kind of like a lot of founders see that as the ultimate pinnacle. I mean, if they plan to exit their business, that's kind of seen as like the pinnacle. Tell me about that stage of your life.
So for me, I had so many former founders and entrepreneur friends and investor friends and all these people during my period in business, and when I wanted to sell the business and when I was in the due diligence, and that whole way through my journey of wanting out, saying to me, be careful what you wish for, man, because this is not as good as you think it's going to be. And coming from where I'd come from and the life that I'd had and the circumstances I had outside of my business, I thought, cry me a river. Like, I'll take that problem any day. Like, let's do that, and then we'll learn. Let's learn from that mistake. But let's make that the mistake I learned from. So I respectfully declined to take any of that on board. And so I didn't buy into any of that. And then almost immediately after this transaction happened and my life was changed, my kids' life, and probably depending on how things pan out, probably hopefully their kids and everything, it really was life-changing for us. And I think at that point, almost immediately once the dust settled, I would say within 2 or 3 days of that transaction settling and the money hitting the account and kind of that new era, that new chapter for our family happening, I was bored as hell. I lost, and I never thought this would happen to me. I've heard stories about other founders and I thought this won't be true of me because I've got my integrity and I've got my gratitude and everything else. I lost every bit of motivation that I had, and I never, ever thought that would happen.
Wow.
Not just because I'm a intense, motivated person, but just because I thought this gratitude gene that I do believe I possess would prevent me from ever not giving everything I had to this company that have come in and they've shared my vision and they've changed my life. And I just couldn't control this demotivation. And I do think it was just a bubble that was building and building and building and building, and it just had to burst at some point. And I remember I couldn't even bring myself to get into the office. And I called them, we spoke about it, and they ended up, we ended up settling for me to leave earlier than my 1 year that I'd agreed to stay to. They were happy with that. I think they wanted my salary off the books anyway, to be honest.
Fair enough.
And we had an excellent management team in there, incredible management team. So they didn't really need me anyway, to be honest. I was not very useful by that stage. So I think we were all happy for me to see the end of it. So it was only about a month after I sold that I was out of the business.
Wow.
And now it really dawns on me. I've got nowhere to go, no staff to hang out with, no purpose. I mean, I've got your kids. Of course, I don't mean I have no purpose. I wasn't like some depression situation. I don't want to misrepresent my circumstances in that way, but I didn't have this pressing, consequential daily goal or this metaphorical mountain that I was trying to climb. And for me, that was devastating. Not immediately devastating. It manifested in lots of different ways, but in hindsight, it ripped out what I believed myself to be, which is hardworking and, a person of highly motivated behaviors and everything else. And it was all gone immediately. And at that time, I was torn between thinking, well, what are you complaining about? You've got the life you always wanted. You got everything you ever wanted. How dare you complain? There's people around who haven't got a fraction of what you've got, and they're grinding it out and they're going into a job they hate every day and they're coming home with a smile on their face. And you're sitting around sulking, like, what is wrong with you? And even as I say it now, I'm still saying to myself, like, what's wrong with you?
I think you're being really hard on yourself. I can totally see how that would happen. Like, we live to work a lot of the time. You'd like to think that we don't, but we do. And it consumes so much of our identity. And if you're like me, which I think you are, like, business is part of our identity. So I think once you take that away, it leaves you thinking about who else am I? And yes, you are a father and a husband and you've got, personal interests and things, but it does force you to think about, what am I going to do literally day to day? What am I going to wake up and do when the kids are, at school and I finish my exercise, and then what?
Exactly. I filled that with so many different hobbies and activities, and I remember I bought a house that had this garage out the back, like a front and rear access, and I turned this garage into a workshop, and I bought all this woodworking equipment, and I'm making chessboards for the kids, and I'm making furniture, and I'm doing all this, and it was fun in the moment, but it wasn't a purpose. And I think, and a little bit of self-reflection, it's because it's not just about being busy, it's about being busy with something that's consequential.
Yes.
There needs to be some stakes. Otherwise, it doesn't give you that trigger of the emotional ups and downs that you kind of need if you're wired a certain way. So I was busy. I was keeping my days really full. But I wasn't solving any problems. I didn't feel like I was making anyone's life better. So I felt like a bit of a weird, selfish existence for a couple of years. Like, really selfish, actually. Like, you're just getting up every morning and all you're doing is trying to do stuff that makes you happy.
For yourself.
That's not the recipe for a good life.
And also when you're young, like, you exited the business, you're still like a young guy. To think this is the rest of your entire life, like, that would be very daunting to be looking down, like, is this my next 40, 50 years?
That's really what after probably a year of this, I don't think at the time I knew how miserable I was, because, it's fun. Like, you can do fun stuff. I traveled so much. I could take the kids away. I could do fun stuff. And so at the surface level, you're having fun. You're smiling every day. You're more present with your kids than you used to be. Like, I've always, I think, been a better dad than a business person. I think I pride myself on being a good dad, and I was doing that better than ever, and that brought me joy and everything as well. But that missing part, it does create this emptiness. And I don't think I realized until probably a year later just how big that void was and just how much of a problem that was going to create for me if I didn't fill that void with something consequential for the rest of my life, really. It was a problem.
Yeah. And so we've got a few minutes left. I've got two questions for you. One is leading into what you just spoke about. You were obviously in this kind of a bit of a lull. You've recently launched Minkie, which is an app completely built on AI agents. Tell me firstly about how did you come up with the idea for that? And tell me about the AI agents. I need to know more about this and how you even broached building an app completely from AI.
So I almost feel guilty to your listeners talking about this because I feel like everyone has AI exhaustion at this point. And I feel like this is where everyone drops out and you lose your listeners.
Not at all. I think business owners are keen to use it and implement it, but just are overwhelmed with information. So it's more like we want to use it, but just where do we start? So that's why I kind of want to know from you. You seem to always know where to start with things.
Well, I think what I do is I always start with the assumption that I know nothing. And so I find people who are smarter than me, which is not hard. Everyone seems to be smarter than me. So I find people who are smarter than me. And then I honestly just ask for their help in a really authentic way. People like to help other people. I know I do. I help anyone who asks for it. And I think
you do.
I find most people do. You do. We talk frequently. When I decided that I wanted to get back into business, start another business and be a part of the business community again, I just started attending franchising events. I still knew so many people there from when we had the previous business and all the sponsorships and everything we did and all the relationships we built. So I started attending that. And before I knew it, I'd put together a little brains trust, which became the advisory board for Minkie. And we just get together and we chat about what was happening and where the voids were and what the headaches were in franchising and what problems needed to be solved and what wasn't being done well. And where I sort of landed on that was that there was inconsistency of support at a local level. So you've got your franchisor that at a local level is sometimes seen as the suits. They're a bit out of touch. They don't know what it's like to be on the ground grinding away like us down here on the ground. And so then you've got your franchisees who are kind of, they're gritting around, they're doing their work, they're waking up in the morning, they're making a buck to feed their family, they're ambassadors for the brand really, the big brands. They are the ones representing the brand every day. And then in between the two, you've often got your area manager or your business development. Different systems will call them different roles, but it's your area manager, your business development coach, whatever it might be. And they're kind of that conduit between the two. And so in a perfect world, your franchisees will be getting absolute nuggets of wisdom, really precise instructions, exactly what to do, exactly why to do it, what's working well at other sites. I should do more of this and less of this. But you'll also get a warm, empathetic person who represents this brand that can sometimes be seen as a bit cold or a bit corporate-y, but they're an empathetic, warm person. They understand the needs of the franchisee. And those two skill sets are not often present in the same human being.
Yes.
To be hyper analytical and incredibly good at analyzing numbers and figuring exactly where the shortfalls are and what actions need to be taken, but also warm and people-focused and empathetic. And so when I'd speak to these franchisors and a lot of the CEOs in this syndicate that we sort of have together, I'd say, well, what matters more? What's more of an irreplaceable attribute? And they're like, well, the people. The people skills, clearly. Like we know that's what makes the world turn is people having relationships with other people. And so I thought to myself, why don't we just focus on that? You guys hire awesome people who care about other people and can build these relationships, and I'll build something that does the coaching of the franchisees.
That's smart.
And so that's how Minkie was born. And basically it's technical. It's complex in its technical sort of infrastructure and everything in the background, but really to explain it, all Minkie does is it connects to all of the data sources from across a whole network. So at a corporate level, that might be like your learning management system and your brand documentation and maybe CRM system for managing leads, whatever. And at a local level, that's your Xero, your bookkeeping software, your Xero, your MIB, whatever it might be. It's probably your rostering system. It could be a stock inventory management system. It's your Google reviews. It's your social media analytics. And then outside of the business, there's also a heap of data relating that influences the outcomes of a business. Things like road closure notifications and demographic analysis from census data in the area. There's just so much data that relates to the success or failure of a site. And so what Minkie does, it consumes all of this data at a site level, at a corporate level, aggregates it across the whole network, and it figures out what are the drivers of success in a business. One example I often like to give is like the notion of, I think we spoke about this the other day, the notion of a Google review. Like that's one data metric.
Yeah.
And if you've organized a babysitter and you're going to go out for dinner with your partner that one night, and you only get to do it a few times a year, that Google review of the restaurant you're selecting is paramount.
Yes.
You're not going anywhere that's less than like 4.8 stars. It doesn't matter whether you're a $10 spender or a $1,000 spender. It's the Google review within your price budget that matters the most. But if it's a Sunday afternoon, you're doing a home improvement project and you've run out of nails, you don't care about the Google review for the Bunnings store. You're just going to turn up and get nails. So that's a good example, I think, of how one data metric will impact success very differently across two really different, exactly the weighting of it. And so that's Minkie's job, is to analyze exactly what I guess metrics do impact performance and outcomes. And then it simply coaches franchisees to do that. So every morning they wake up, they look at their mobile app, they've got a daily report with tasks and insights, and they can interact with those and they can ask questions and they can do all sorts of things with the chatbot.
All to drive performance.
All to drive performance, and really simple stuff. We're not over-engineering this at all. At the franchisee level, it's just coaching tips and an interactive chat where you can chat with your marketing agent, your finance agent, operations agent, industry trends agent. You can chat with those agents in the app, all sort of under the banner of the tasks that you're given to do each day. So instead of AI being a tool that you instruct, so instead of like, write this article, do this for me, solve this problem, analyze my data. Now it's the opposite. It's the AI telling you what to do instead of you telling it what to do. And that's the big seismic shift that we think.
It's a big shift.
We think that will make a really, really, really big difference, because you have to, in order to use the current AI tools, you kind of still have to know the right questions to ask in order to get the right answers. This learns your data and it will tell you what to do rather than the other way around. We think it's cool.
It's genius. Everything you do is genius.
No, I don't think so.
You definitely discredit yourself saying you're not the smartest person in the room. It's
just
incredible.
I steal everyone else's ideas, I think. No, we with that one, genuinely, like, that has been a massive team effort from a heap of people who are objectively significantly smarter than I am.
I think that's so important though to just absorb as much information and ideas as you can from the people around you, and you don't have to do business alone, and you're like an absolute testament to that. I love it.
Yeah. No, with the teamwork's what it's all about. We've got a few people that I've worked with before that are back in the new business as well. And so for me, that familiarity of knowing what you get, knowing you've got people who believe in me and I believe in them, and it's made the whole thing really, really enjoyable.
Oh, that's incredible. Well, I'm so happy to have had you and to share your story. I've got one final question for you for the listener. What advice do you have for someone who's got a bold idea of their own?
Wow. God, you put me on.
I know, I really put you on the spot.
This is the one that you should have given me before I came in. Yeah, I know, you should have given me this one. For me, find the problem before the solution. Identify the person with the headache before you try and build a Panadol. That's kind of what I think. A lot of people
that's great advice.
They have an idea. They think they're smarter than they probably are. We all do sometimes. But it's not about the idea that you have. It's about the problem that you find. Once you've found the problem, then work on the solution. People do it the reverse order. They come up with an idea and then they try and find a problem to match their idea.
That's so true, because often you can have this great idea and it's a solution to nothing. Nobody wants it. It's not solving a problem. I think that's fantastic advice, and good one for on the spot too. Thank you so much for joining me, Josh. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I've known a bit about your story, but I've loved hearing the origin story too. So thank you.
Thanks, Marianne. It's been fun. Cheers.
If you loved what you heard, make sure you follow the podcast so you never miss an episode. Or even better, leave us a review. And if you have a bold idea of your own, I'd love to hear from you. Check out the show notes to get in touch.